one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is when he does after he kills, you know, Kirk and he runs out to the window and he's just pulling back those curtains and he's like, where are these people coming from? Where are they? What is going on?
Oh yeah.
And he's in a state of panic.
Yeah. He's sitting there. That's his imitation of the hitchhiker.
And certainly you had the greatest on-screen entrance of any character, maybe in the history of cinema, when you just pull open the door, whack, and then yank him in and slam it shut. And that I think the audience is just left going, what the hell just happened at that moment?
What did I see? Yeah, no, I think it's true. And it's interesting, that scene, because that was the first time I was on camera in the movie. And so I was really pumped up. I mean, I was just so pumped up for that scene, just so charged with adrenaline. And what I was supposed to do was, the hammer is made of balsa wood with a foam head on it. I'm just supposed to hit him with it. He flips over. I'm supposed to pick him up and drag him out of the doorway. And in that little alcove, in that little room, I just have to drag him basically around the corner. And we've got pillows set on the floor so that I just drag him so he clears the doorway and just drop him. And then close the door. That were my instructions. Those were my instructions. Well, I was so cranked up that when I hit him, first of all, I actually hit him with the hammer, and then, which didn't hurt him at all, but then instead of just pulling him, I picked him up and threw him. And I wasn't supposed to do that. I'm just supposed to drag him out of the doorway. But I threw him, and I threw him right past the pillows and threw him head first into the wall. So when he hits the wall, he's like, what happened? And then I slammed that door, and I was just supposed to close it. But I was so cranked up, I just thought I'm gonna do that. So I slammed it, and luckily, one of the reasons it's so shocking is it happens fast, which it wasn't supposed to necessarily. But also the door looks really heavy. It weighed nothing. It was 3 2x4s and a piece of sheet metal. But the way it was built, when it slid into the wall, there are 2 2x4s that it slides into, and they were a little smaller than they were supposed to be, and so the door jammed. When you slam it, it got stuck. So you couldn't tell how light the door was because I slammed the door and it just stopped dead, like it weighed 500 pounds. If they hadn't inadvertently made that opening too narrow, it would have slammed and kind of bounced back. But because of the way the door wedged when it closed, it looked like it weighed half a ton. And that's what I think made that scene look so impressive. And then when they did the remake, it was really curious to watch the remake, because Leatherface is struggling with the door. And I thought, what a mistake. You're making a guy who's supposed to be unstoppable.
You can't open a door.
Yeah, and he can't slam a door shut. And they make him so unstoppable, supposedly, and yet, well, I guess he isn't that unstoppable, because a small woman with a meat cleaver with one swing can take off his arm. I can't do that.
That's right. She was cute.
She was cute. That's right. And then there was the most unauthentic thing. This was a 70s movie with all those anachronisms in it. But the most inauthentic thing about the movie was that she had a 2001 boob job. That was not a 1973 boob job.
There's very little blood in the movie at all. But the suggestion is so strong.
When the movie first came out on video, so many people said to me, that's a cut edition of the film. They've cut the film for the video. And I said, well, what do you mean? Because it's 87 minutes, whatever it is. It's the same movie. It's absolutely the same movie. And they said, well, this scene, and they'd mentioned some scene or some other scene, and they go, well, in that scene, they cut out all the blood. Well, you cut the guy in half, and they cut all that out of the movie.
That's true.
And people are so convinced now not so much, obviously, because they get to see it over and over again, but people who had seen it in the theater were so convinced that they had seen things in the movie that weren't there at all.
That's right.
A guy came up to me once and said, that movie had the best special effects I've ever seen in a movie. Why can't they do them as well nowadays? And I said, it's because there aren't any.
Was there any notion that Toby had any ideas that he was making something that was going to make a social statement, or was he just out to make a horror movie?
I think he was out to make a horror movie. I think we were all out to make a horror movie. A lot of the social statement comes after the fact.
Yeah.
If you can find it in the film and it's supportable and it's consistent, okay, you can make that argument. But social statement is almost always after the fact. If it's not after the fact and is intentional, chances are it's not a very good movie. I think Toby's intention was to scare people. I think that was the sum total of his, and to have a film career. You know. But he wanted to make a movie that just was as frightening as possible. And when we talked about the film, and I talked to him about the whole idea of the film, and he said, I wanted to put into this movie everything that had ever scared me in a horror movie. That was what he was trying to do.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it. Rated R.